Every time my girlfriend Sophia finished a date with her white moonlight, she would give me a gift to assuage her guilt. In just 1 year, I received 6 watches, 15 bottles of Hermes perfume, and over 30 ties on our anniversary. She promised to stop giving me gifts and to spend the day with me. That night, she stood me up from the gift box she left behind. I took out the keys to a Maserati at the same time. Her white moonlight Dimitri also posted an update on his social media. The accompanying picture was a pregnancy test report. 1 month along at that moment, I knew it was time to break up. Sophia never looked at her phone when she was on a date with her white moonlight. So it wasn't until the early hours of the morning, almost 3 hours after I'd sent my breakup message, that she finally came sauntering back in her high heels. Elias, what are you making a scene about now? The moment she walked in, without even asking why, she decided I was the one throwing a tantrum. I didn't say anything, just kept my head down and continued packing my things. She seemed to be in a good mood. She wasn't angered by my silence and instead leaned over to take a look. Are you doing some cold turning? Just as I thought, when love is gone, she'd probably think I was playing on a swing even if I were hanging myself. Yes, I let out a cold scoff and nodded, feelings to it. It's time to cut them off. Sophia's face fell. She sighed, her own like she was placating a child. All right, don't be angry. That's just because I didn't spend the night with you, right? I had to go to my friend's gathering today. I actually wanted to come back a long time ago, but they wouldn't let me leave. I could smell the men's cologne on her, the one that was uniquely Dimitri's. Seeing how happy she looked, I didn't call her out on her lie. I'm not angry. Sophia clearly didn't believe me. After a few seconds of silence, she asked tentatively, did you see that post Dimitri put up on his social media? My hands paused for a moment. They said nothing. Realizing she guessed right, Sophia covered her mouth and let out a laugh that sounded like silver bells. You're really angry about that? That was a picture Dimitri photoshopped because he lost a game of Dare. They thought it was funny. And I didn't want to be a wet blanket, so I just let them go with it. Elias, you're so naive, Cowlden. Do you tell the picture was fake? I watched her shake with laughter, her expression smug as if to say, I knew it. It's always been this way. She knows perfectly well why I get angry, why I get jealous. Yet she still does these things that cause misunderstandings. Sometimes she even tells her friends about my anger and jealousy as if it's some kind of joke. In the past, I probably would have argued with her. But now I felt nothing at all, only a sense of pointlessness. I looked at her seriously. I'm not making a scene. I'm serious, Sophia. Let's break up. Sophia's smile froze on her lips. Her expression tinged with exasperation. Are you ever going to drop this? You want to break up over such a small thing? Fine. I'll have Dimitri delete the post. That should settle it, right? As she spoke, she sent a message to Dimitri right in front of me. This actually surprised me a little. In the past, whenever we argued about Dimitri, the most Sophia would say was for me not to be so petty. She never thought Dimitri was the one at fault. But just as I was thinking this, I saw her chat with Dimitri out of the corner of my eye. Sorry, Sophia, it was just a joke. I didn't think Elias would get so angry. I'll delete it now. Sophia replied with a cute sticker. It's not your fault. Elias just can't take a joke. I couldn't help but find it laughable. I realized she was just trying to smooth things over. She still thought Dimitri was innocent. There, take a look. It's deleted now, isn't it? Sophia held her phone out to me. I didn't say anything. I glanced down on my own phone at the post that hadn't been deleted and knew that Dimitri had simply hidden it from her. This kind of blatant provocation had happened too many times in the past. I might have complained, tried to tell her about Dimitri's manipulative games, but now I had no desire to do so at all, even if I did. Sophia wouldn't believe me anyway. My voice was calm as I nodded. It's late. I'm going to bed. I turned and walked toward the bedroom. I'll come with you. Uncharacteristically, Sophia moved to follow me. Before she could enter, I raised my hand, shut the bedroom door, and locked it. Sophia couldn't push the door open. She completely lost her patience and started banging on the door, the sound deafening. Elias, are you done with this? You're still making a scene over a single social media post? Have I been spoiling you too much? Open this door. I won't say it again. Her words were cut short by her ringing phone. She stopped pounding on the door, her voice turning gentle as she answered the call. Her tone was completely different from a moment ago. I didn't need a guess to know it was Dimitri on the other end, sure enough, as if in a fit of pique. She deliberately raised her voice an octave and said into the phone, "Don't you move. I'm coming to find you. We're not going home until we're drunk tonight." I knew she was trying to provoke me in the past. Whenever we had a conflict, she would say I couldn't tolerate her and threaten to go find Dimitri. Every time, I would be the one to compromise, to give in to her, but now I was unmoved. Not long after, the door was slammed shut with force, making a deafening sound. I knew Sophia was angry, but I didn't feel the panic I used to. Instead, I found it rather childish she dared to do this, only because she thought I would never really break up with her. But she was wrong whether she agreed to it or not. We were already over after a long moment. I made a call to my mentor who was abroad. "Mentor," I said, "I've made up my mind. I want to join the research institute. Do you still have a spot for me?" "Of course I do. I've been saving it for you. You finally came to your senses. I've been waiting for your call these past few days," my mentor said. His voice filled with delight. The year I graduated, my mentor had invited me to join a project abroad. I had heard about the project back in school and was very tempted. But, for Sophia's sake, I chose to stay in the country. I remember how disappointed my mentor was, how he'd pull me aside for private talks, urging me to focus on my career, but I didn't listen, fortunately. The opportunity was still there. I chatted a bit more with my mentor, and after he settled on the arrangements, I walked out of the bedroom. I was about to look for my passport when I saw the exquisite gift box on the table. I knew it was another gift from Sophia. I pulled open the drawer next to it. Inside, neatly arranged, were a dozen or so ties, cologne, and designer watches. All of them were things Sophia had bought for me out of guilt after meeting with Dimitri. It started on my birthday, when she ran off to pick up Dimitri from the airport while choosing a gift for him. She casually bought an identical one for me. I was so happy that night. I didn't even question why she had missed my birthday. Later, she repeated the same trick. When she noticed that my reactions were becoming more and more stable, she seemed to catch on. Every time she met with Dimitri, she would bring a gift back for me. She thought I liked the gifts, but she never knew that I was just happy to think she still had me in her heart. That was why, no matter how much Dimitri provoked me, I could always console myself that the past was the past and that I was still the most important person in her heart. But today, that pregnancy test report brought me crashing back to reality. Love no longer mattered. What mattered was her boundless tolerance for him, which made me realize that this pregnancy test report would sooner become a reality. I didn't open the gift Sophia had just given me. I put it together with all the others after a moment's thought. I added a bank card to the pile. This was what I owed Sophia back in college. My family wasn't well off, so she found all sorts of ways to give me money under the pretext of needing a tutor. That year I was hospitalized. My family wouldn't help without batting an eye. She stole a large sum of money from her family to cover my medical bills and got a terrible scolding for it. I only heard about all this from other people. She had saved my life, and so I indulged her in everything. She said she wanted me to stay, so I gave up the chance to go abroad. She said her health was poor and she wanted me to take care of her. So I gave up a high-paying job and even took classes to learn how to help nurse her back to health. Even so, I still felt indebted to her in my spare time. I worked part-time to save money. In 7 years, I saved up $208,000, the exact cost of the surgery. Perhaps even fate thought it was time for us to be even. After I finished packing my things, a message came from Dimitri. I opened it to see a selfie of him and Sophia. They were both making peace signs at the camera, with a smiling Sophia held in Dimitri's arms, looking very intimate. Immediately after, he sent an emoji. The green hat. The implication was obvious. I ignored it. 10 minutes later, another message from Dimitri arrived. "Oops, sent that to the wrong person. Elias. I didn't mean anything by it. Don't read too much into it. I knew he was provoking me on purpose, but since Sophia and I had already broken up, it was hard to say whose head that green hat was really for." I forwarded his last message back to him in less than a minute. Sophia's call came through. I hung up without a moment's hesitation. I knew perfectly well that Dimitri was stirring up trouble again. It was always like this. After provoking me, he would be the one to complain to her first, and Sophia would invariably blame me without hearing my side, mocking me for being petty. It was as if I was always the one in the wrong whenever we fought. Once I finished packing, I walked out the door with my suitcase. I found a hotel to stay at. But when I went to pay, the front desk clerk told me my card had been frozen. I froze for a moment, then took out my phone and saw the message from Sophia. Regret it yet? This is your punishment for not answering my calls. Sophia had opened this card account for me. She had pestered me endlessly until I quit my job to take care of her full-time. As compensation, she gave me this card and deposited 2,000 yuan into it each month for living expenses. It was my sole source of funds. I knew she was doing this to force me to apologize to Dmitri. The hotel receptionist handed the card back to me, suggesting I use another card or pay with cash. But all my money was on that card. I never imagined things with Sophia would reach this point, so I had never prepared a safety net for myself. Seeing me hesitate, the receptionist's expression grew contemptuous, and they impatiently asked if I still wanted the room. Excuse me, could I use this as collateral for now? I took off my ring and handed it to the receptionist. It was custom made for my second anniversary with Sophia. I had designed a ring, and when she first got it, she loved it so much she couldn't put it down, wearing it every single day. But later, after Dmitri returned, her ring disappeared. I asked her about it once and she just shrugged it off. I probably lost it. At that thought, I couldn't help but laugh. The rings were a matching pair. If she had already lost hers, why should I still wear mine as if it were some precious treasure? The receptionist examined the ring for a moment before finally handing me a keycard, muttering under their breath, "A grown man who doesn't even have a few hundred yuan has to leave something as collateral." My face burned and I apologized to them in embarrassment. After checking into the room with my luggage, I began to consider my next steps. With my car frozen, affording my next meal was a problem, to say nothing of a plane ticket. After a few minutes of thought, I called several friends, hoping to borrow some money, but they either made excuses about not having money or stammered evasively. Then I received a call from Sophia. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. "Elias, what are you doing? I freeze your card so you go around trying to scam people for money, is that it? Your friend just called me asking if we're going bankrupt." The moment the call connected, Sophia unleashed a torrent of accusations without giving me a chance to speak. I didn't try to explain. I waited for her to finish before saying calmly, "Unfreeze the card. That money is mine. You have no right to touch it." "What did you just say?" Sophia's voice was filled with disbelief. I knew what she was thinking. In the past. Whenever she came to confront me, I would either desperately defend myself or, to keep from escalating the situation, grovel and apologize to her. This was the first time I had ever spoken to her so forcefully, in such a commanding tone. "I've spent all these years taking care of you. Even a nanny deserves a salary," I said, enunciating each word. "We've already broken up. Consider that money my wages. You have no right to touch it." "Break up?" Sophia scoffed. "Elias, are you not done with this tantrum? You tried to break up with me twice already. Do you really think I don't have the guts to do it? I advise you to think carefully. You have nothing now. What can you possibly do after breaking up with me? Who else would ever want you? Since you insist on calculating every penny with me, does that mean you're going to return everything I've ever given you? I already put them in the living room drawer. You can go home and look." My heart grew cold. After a pause, I added calmly, "I've decided to leave the city before I go." Before I could finish, I heard Dimitri's laughter from her end. Elias is so amusing. For a moment, I actually thought he was serious about breaking up. I was even a little nervous. "I didn't expect it was just another trick to get you to go home, Sophia. Maybe you should go back. I really don't want you to fight because of me." Sophia scoffed, her voice low, as if speaking to Dmitri. "Pay him no mind." Then she sighed and spoke to me. "Elias, I see through all your little tricks. Stop it. It's getting tedious, aren't you? You just worried something is going on between me and Dmitri. I'll be frank with you. He's not feeling well, so I came to take care of him for a few days. I'll be back once he recovers. Stop being so needlessly jealous, all right? I was about to unfreeze the card for you, but what you said just now made me very unhappy, so I've decided I'll unfreeze it in 3 days. Consider it a lesson." Then, without waiting for my reply, Sophia hung up before the line went dead. I heard her laughing with Dimitri. I had no energy to dwell on it. I was leaving the day after tomorrow. The car being unfrozen in 3 days would be too late. I knew I wouldn't get the money back from Sophia, so I gave up that hope. After thinking for a bit, I decided I had to find a part-time job that night. I found a job as a waiter at a KEV and made 500 yuan in one shift. It was already morning when I returned to the hotel with the money. I was exhausted, but feeling the cash in my hand, I felt a rare sense of peace. Feelings change, but only money will never betray you. As a pity, I've only just realized this, but thankfully, it's not too late. I slept until noon when I woke up. I checked my phone and only found a few spam messages. Sophia is afraid of the dark when I wasn't home. She would call and message me non-stop. She hasn't contacted me at all, so she probably didn't go home all night. But I didn't care anymore. That night I went to work as usual through the heavy door. The sounds from the private room were still raucous. Sophia often came to places like this, but I don't like them. Late one night that year, Sophia suddenly sent me an SOS message with her location pinned at a KEV. Without even changing my clothes, I rushed over in a panic, but as soon as I opened the door to the private room, Dimitri and her friends were pointing at me. Bent over with laughter. Only then did I realize they were playing truth or dare. I was drenched in sweat, wearing pajamas and a pair of slippers. A world apart from me, impeccably dressed Dimitri. Sophia, as friends, were sarcastic and snide towards me. Sophia, with a cold face, mercilessly blamed me for embarrassing her by dressing like that. Ever since then, I've had a strong aversion to places like this. However, perhaps because I was about to leave, I felt much calmer now, but something still went beyond my expectations. In the early morning, the manager asked me to deliver drinks to a private room. He repeatedly reminded me that they were important clients and that I had to take good care of them. I agreed without giving it much thought. As soon as I walked in, I heard a roar of cheers and jeers. I instinctively turned my head and saw Sophia and Dimitri on the sofa, surrounded by everyone, the center of attention. Their eyes were locked, faces extremely close. They were playing a game of eating an apple together from opposite ends, where their lips could touch at any moment. A flirtatious atmosphere filled the air. Kiss, kiss, someone cheered from the side. Sophia's face instantly flushed red. Time's up. You were the slut. You'll have to be punished. How should we punish them? Let's have the waiter decide, one of them said with a laugh, pointing at me. Everyone's gaze fell on me. Sophia looked over too, and the moment she saw me, the smile on her face froze. Dimitri beside her also recognized me. A flash of contempt crossed his eyes, but he quickly composed himself and said with a smile, "Hey, isn't this Elias? Why are you in a waiter's uniform?" Sophia's friends nearby also laughed sarcastically. Sophia, what's going on? How could you let your boyfriend work in a place like this to earn money? They exchanged glances and smiled, then clamored to order drinks to help me get a commission. I knew their real intention was to humiliate me. They had never thought much of me, thinking I had nothing and wasn't good enough for Sophia, even though I had spent years trying to prove myself to them, helping them wholeheartedly whenever they had a problem. Nothing had changed in the past. I would have been heartbroken and crestfallen. But now I was surprisingly calm. Their attitude towards me in the end was all because of Sophia. Since Sophia was no longer important to me, what did their opinions matter? I immediately and politely recommended some drinks to them. After recommending several expensive brands in a row, I smiled and asked, "These are all sold by the case of 12. How many would you like?" They were stunned, not expecting me to be so thick-skinned, and were left speechless. "You probably can't drink more than that, so let's make it 24 bottles, I said considerately. "That'll be 160. Are you on in total? Could someone please go to the front desk to pay?" After speaking, I ignored their ugly, awkward expressions and turned to leave, but just as I reached the door, Sophia caught up to me, her face dark. She questioned me harshly. "Elias, have you made enough of a scene? Why did you follow me here?" My tone was calm. "I didn't follow you. I'm here to earn money." Sophia clearly didn't believe me, her tone growing colder. "Does the family need you to earn money? Even if I cut off your card, the money from selling just 1 or 2 of those gifts will be enough for you to live on for a year." I couldn't be bothered to explain, so I just nodded. "You're right. I thought Sophia would be satisfied. To my surprise, her expression worsened before she could say anything. Dmitri, who was nearby, spoke up. Sophia, since Elias is already here, don't be in a hurry to make him leave. Let us have a few drinks together. I had expected Sophia to insist that I stay, just as she had before, and I was about to decline. But then, I heard her say, then you should stay for now, we'll go home together later. I was a little surprised in the past. Whenever we were out, she couldn't wait for me to leave. And now she was asking me to stay with her before I could think much of it. Dmitri suddenly clutched his head. Sophia, my stomach suddenly hurts a lot. What's wrong? Is it acting up again? I'll take you to the hospital. Sophia hurried back to Dmitri's side, her eyes tense while I had a high fever and was sick before. She never seemed this worried. Seeing the concern in her eyes, I gave a smile of resignation. I'll be going now, you to carry on. Wait, Sophia suddenly called out to me. I turned back, puzzled, only to see a strange look in her eyes as she took out her phone and tapped on it a few times. The card has been unfrozen. Take a taxi home. Wait for me at home. I have something to tell you. This was the first time she had remembered me while she was with Dmitri in the past. I probably would have been very happy. I gave a perfunctory reply and walked out the door. The commission from the drinks was enough to buy a plane ticket after booking the earliest flight. I went back to the hotel, grabbed my suitcase, and took a taxi to the airport. The moment I boarded the plane, I couldn't help but look back at this city. So familiar and yet so strange. I knew that this time, I was truly saying goodbye to Sophia. I arrived abroad in the afternoon. My mentor was too busy to get away, so he had one of his students pick me up. It was only when we met that I realized she was a very cheerful girl who looked 2 or 3 years younger than me. Her name was Alara. As saw me, she looked me up and down excitedly, fiming with a pleasant surprise. Senior, I've heard our mentor mention you so many times. I'm so glad to finally meet you in person. The mentor was always praising you, saying you were the most diligent person in the lab. It's a shame you stayed in the country for your girlfriend. Are you here with your girlfriend this time? She fired off several questions, and for a moment I didn't know how to respond. Fortunately, she seemed to notice my silence. Alara didn't press further and smoothly moved on to the next topic. Her poised and articulate nature made me a little nostalgic. It was as if I were seeing myself shortly after I had just graduated. She then helped me by telling me about the recent rental listings, including which complex had good green spaces, which had great food, and which was best for living. Bustling about, she quickly helped me find a suitable apartment. I thanked her, tidied up the room briefly, and then lay down on the bed to rest for a few hours. I was startled awake by my phone ringing while I got to it. I saw that Sophia had sent me nearly a dozen messages and called 3 or 4 times. Before I could think, her call came through again. After a moment's thought, I answered. I sent you so many messages. Why didn't you reply? Why aren't you at home? Where are you? The moment the call connected, Sophia threw a series of complaining questions at me. After a thought, I told her the truth. I've gone abroad. What are you doing abroad? Never mind. Where's the first aid kit in the house? Dmitri just burned his hand by accident and I can't find any medicine. That's all your fault. Why you leave things all over the place and not answer your phone? What if it had been me who got burned today? Sophia's tone was reproachful. I was silent for a moment, then said, it's under the TV console in the living room, in the very middle drawer. I've told you before, and every time you got hurt, that's where I got the medicine from. Okay, I know. Before I could finish, Sophia hung up the phone. I looked at the disconnected call screen, let out a soft laugh and paid it no more mind. I thought she would now be taking good care of Dmitri. But, to my surprise, her call came through again in less than a minute. I assumed she couldn't find it and answered. Did you not find it? Just as I spoke, Sophia's tense voice came through at almost the same time. Elias, what's all this stuff in the drawer? Aren't these the gifts I gave you? Why did you leave them all here? And you said you went abroad. Why did you go abroad? What are you doing there? I listened to her belated realization. I didn't choose to hide it from her. She would find out sooner or later anyway. My mentor said there's a very good project here that's in urgent need of people. So he invited me to collaborate it. That project he invited me to the year I graduated. I told you about it, but you probably don't remember. I replied in a calm voice. Sophia's breathing seemed to grow heavier. Then when are you coming back? I won't be back for the next few years, I said flatly. I've already got my green card here. Then what about me? What am I supposed to do? Elias, I have a company now. I can't go abroad. Sophia's tone seemed a little irritated. I paused, knowing she had probably misunderstood. I wasn't planning on having you come over, Sophia. We've already broken up. You can stay wherever you want. That's your choice. Knowing what she was about to say, I cut her off first. Likewise, where I go is my freedom. Sophia, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, suddenly exploded. Break up. Break up. It's always break up. Elias, what on earth are you trying to pull? Didn't I say I don't agree to the breakup? Isn't it just because Dimitri posted a moment? Why do you have to keep harping on it? Sophia's voice was frantic and furious. Then I heard Dimitri's faint, delicate voice from the side. Sophia, I'm sorry, this is my fault. Let me explain to Elias. I felt a bit nauseous and subconsciously wanted to hang up, but Sophia suddenly yelled, You shut up. This is between the two of us. What does it have to do with you? Hearing this, I couldn't help but freeze for a moment, perhaps because it was the first time Sophia had yelled at him so rudely. Dimitri was also stunned. After nearly a minute of silence, Dimitri's apologetic voice came from the other end. I'm sorry, Sophia. Then I don't know what happened, but Sophia suddenly started calling his name in a panic. The call disconnected even though I wasn't there. I could guess that Dimitri was playing the victim again. Sophia always fell for that. I didn't pay it any more mind and went to the lab in the evening. My mentor was very pleased to see me. I was worried he might suddenly back out. Thankfully, he didn't disappoint me a second time. I thanked my mentor, a little embarrassed, grateful that he could still give me this chance to start over in the time that followed. I dedicated myself completely to the research project. There were many junior students in the same group who had started the research earlier than me, but they would look at me strangely for my late start. On the contrary, they were very patient from time to time. We would also get together privately once after getting drunk. A junior student told me that our mentor had unintentionally heard about my situation over the past few years from someone else and had been extremely worried. He often said I was his most outstanding student, that I should have a brighter future and not be trapped and mired in a relationship. So, despite my resume being blank for several years, he made an exception to let me into this research group. Only then did I learn the truth. I grew even more grateful to my mentor and threw myself into the project with even more effort. The willpower that had once been worn down and exhausted by my relationship was being reignited time and again through the experiments, even though it was tiring. It felt incredibly fulfilling. Half a month later, I was coming home from the lab. As soon as I stepped into the elevator, I saw people moving things in and out of my rented apartment. What are you doing? I hurried forward, trying to stop them. Then I saw Sophia inside the room, directing people where to put things. Elias, you're back. Seeing me, she broke into a brilliant smile. I wasn't sure if it was my imagination, but her face looked much more haggard. I was a little puzzled. After thinking for a moment, I asked, What are you doing here? It took me a long time to find out you lived here. The furniture in your room was too old. Living in this kind of environment is bad for your health, so I bought some new furniture. Sophia explained with a smile. Hearing this, I grew even more confused. Sophia had never been concerned about my health. This seemed to be the first time, but I didn't dwell on it. I said to her coolly, Have them put my things back. This is all the landlord's furniture. We have no right to move it. Sophia immediately explained, I bought the apartment. We, Ray the landlords now. After saying this, she flashed another smile at me, as if she were deliberately trying to curry favor with me before. An attitude like this from her would have been something I wouldn't have dared to dream of. But now I only felt panic. I couldn't help but wonder, what was the reason for this kindness she was showing me? Thinking of this, My gaze fell to her lower abdomen and I just went ahead and asked, "Are you pregnant with Dimitri's child?" Sophia's expression froze. I beat around the bush and said directly, "We've already broken up. It's fine if you're having his child, you two should just be together openly." Smack, the moment the words left my mouth, Sophia slapped me across the face. She used a lot of force and my head was knocked to the side. When I turned my head back, I saw that Sophia's eyes were terribly red. "Elias, you've gone too far." I pressed my tongue against the roof of my mouth. A faint, metallic taste of blood lingered. I had most likely started bleeding. I really wanted to ask her how I had gone too far. Back then, every gift she gave me signified a betrayal. Was I wronging her? But when the words reached my lips, I couldn't be bothered to say all this to her. "We've already broken up, so why make things unpleasant? If there's nothing else, you should go. We've already broken up. What does it look like for you to still be here?" I said to her coolly. Sophia's eyes grew redder. "Are you really going to give me up to Dimitri?" "Elias, do you really not love me anymore?" she asked, her voice choked with sobs. I found it somewhat amusing. "Why give me up? You're a living person with your own thoughts and preferences, not some object to be given away." "Weren't these all your own choices?" Sophia was silent for a few seconds, then looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. "But I never wanted to break up with you. It was only after you left that I realized the one I love most is still you." Her tone was solemn and earnest, but I couldn't help but let out a snort of laughter. "Don't be ridiculous. All right?" Sophia's face paled. She moved her lips and finally became flustered and exasperated. "Elias, I accept this breakup. Don't forget, when you were at your lowest, I was the one who paid your medical bills." She seemed to think this would hold me back. I couldn't help but smile. "I've already put the money on the bank card in the drawer, you can check. It's the exact amount we owe even now." Sophia still wanted to say something, but I was growing impatient and threatened her without hesitation. "Sophia, even if this is your house, I'm a tenant. You are now committing criminal trespass. If you don't leave right now, I will call the police." With that, I took out my phone and dialed the emergency number. Sophia gritted her teeth, but perhaps seeing that I wouldn't budge, she turned and left. I thought she would get the hint and back off. But the next morning, I saw her waiting for me downstairs in the complex. Seeing me, she hurried forward. "I just bought it. The temperature is just right. Have a taste. It's so frustrating. All the breakfast places here just have dry bread. It took me forever to find a Chinese restaurant." As she spoke, she smilingly stuffed the steamed bun and soy milk into my hands. She acted so naturally, as if yesterday had never happened, as if we were still as loving as before, except in the past I was always the one bringing her food. She had a sensitive stomach, so I would remember everything she couldn't eat, make her meals at home, and bring them to her. Sometimes she'd be busy and I would wait downstairs until she finished her work and remembered me. This seemed to be the first time she had ever brought me food. What a pity. I glanced at the soy milk in my hand and said flatly, "Sorry, I'm allergic to soy milk." Her smile froze. "I forgot. I'll go buy another one." "No need. It's okay. The stall is just nearby." With that, Sophia ran off. Watching her retreating back, my feelings were complicated. She was always like this just when I thought she didn't like me. She could spare the time to placate me, but when I thought I had a place in her heart, she would give her heart to someone else. I didn't wait for her. I left directly for the lab. I thought she would give up in the face of my indifference, but to my surprise, a junior colleague from my group soon brought the breakfast over for me. For the next few days, Sophia brought me breakfast every day. Colleagues in my group started asking if I had a new girlfriend. Even my mentor heard the rumors and asked me about the situation. After a brief explanation, I knew talking to Sophia was useless, so on several occasions, I threw the breakfast she brought into the trash right in front of her. That day, I clearly saw her face gradually turn pale. But I remembered very clearly once before I had gone to bring her a meal. But she had already made plans to go to a restaurant with Dimitri. So, she threw away the food I had painstakingly made without a second thought for the next few days. Sophia didn't bring me breakfast anymore. It seemed she had understood my attitude and finally given up. That day, she gave me a call. Her voice was hoarse as if she had just been crying. Elias, I'm sorry. I've been bothering you lately. I'm preparing to go back to my country. But before I leave, can we meet one last time? I thought about it and agreed. As it turned out, a small problem came up with an experiment that day. I was so focused on finding a solution that I lost track of time by the time I rushed over. I was nearly 2 hours late. I had expected her to be angry and call me repeatedly, but to my surprise, there were no messages from her on my phone. I found it strange in the past. When we were dating, if I was even 2 minutes late, she would get annoyed and lecture me endlessly about not being punctual, but I soon understood why. When I arrived at the restaurant, before I even walked in, I saw Sophia being held in Dimitri's arms, looking incredibly happy. My hand about to push the door froze. I didn't go in. I turned and left afterward. I calmly sent Sophia a message wishing her a safe journey. That night, Sophia knocked on my door when I opened the door. Her eyes were red and she screamed at me almost hysterically. Elias, I've already apologized. What more do you want? Do you really not want to see me one last time? I waited for you for so long and you just brushed me off with a single text. If that's the case, why did you agree in the first place? As she spoke, she squatted down and began to sob quietly for a moment. I couldn't tell if she was being genuine or just putting on an act. But what I did know was how terrible it feels to have a promise broken after a moment's thought. I replied, I'm sorry. It was my fault for not keeping my promise. But I did go. You were with Dimitri. Sophia froze for a moment, then let out a bitter laugh. Just because of him, you refuse to believe me. What if I told you that I've already told him I don't like him? That the person I like is you? Would you be willing to give me another chance? I was silent for a few seconds instead of answering her. I asked, have you said those words to him too? The air grew still. Sophia stared at me blankly, tears still on her face, before giving another bitter laugh. I understand. Elias, you've really changed. She said no more. She turned and walked slowly down the stairs. Her figure seemed even thinner, almost skeletal. I felt a strange, dull ache in my chest. I convinced myself that these were her choices and had nothing to do with me. But that night I couldn't sleep. I only slept for an hour. And when I woke up, my head was still groggy. As I left my house, I thought I caught a glimpse of Sophia out of the corner of my eye. When I looked again, the corner was empty. Only then did I realize I had been mistaken. I couldn't help but laugh. I thought I'd already moved on, but I guess I was still seeing things. Sophia had posted her flight information on her social media feed last night. She was probably back in her country and resting by now. Or maybe she was with Dimitri. I was really just torturing myself. I rubbed my temples and tried not to think about it anymore. However, either it was from lack of sleep or some other reason, I felt a strange sense of unease the whole way, and my heart was pounding. I had a vague bad feeling. After leaving the gates of my residential complex, the more I thought, the more something felt wrong. I was just thinking about taking the morning off to rest, when, as I was about to turn back, I heard a piercing scream behind me. Confused, I turned around, only to see a car speeding straight toward me. My mind blanked for half a second before I reacted instinctively, dodging to the side. The car brushed past my clothes and I could even feel the sharp wind it stirred up before I could even process what had happened. There were more screams and the car came at me again. The driver's face was clearly visible. It was Dimitri. I wanted to dodge, but my mind went blank and my legs felt as heavy as lead just as the front of the car was a few meters away. A powerful force shoved me hard and I fell uncontrollably. Immediately after, the piercing screech of brakes tore through the air. Sophia, who should have been on her way back to her country, now appeared before my eyes, her body flying through the air like a kite with a snapped string. The next thing I knew, I was standing outside the emergency room. The whole experience felt like a dream. I didn't even know how I got in here. I only remembered that not long after the crash, an ambulance and a police car arrived. The police pinned down a reed at Dimitri, who was cursing and screaming something at me. The gist of it was that he was blaming me for stealing Sophia. I found it almost comical. I had once been driven mad with jealousy by her preference for him back then. I never imagined our roles would one day be reversed, but wasn't he the one Sophia had always liked? But, at the time, before I could react, The paramedics had me on a stretcher alongside Sophia. She was covered in blood. Her face was ashen, like a sheet of white paper clutching my hand. She kept repeating something in a low voice. I leaned close to her lips and could just make out the words, "I'm sorry." The dark red blood spread across her face, the glaring crimson. I was confused. Hadn't she already returned to her country? Why was she here? What did she come back for? But someone soon answered these questions for me. I don't know when she appeared, but Alara was suddenly in front of me. Her eyes read. She said to me, "Senior, she's going to be okay." I sat in silence on the bench, an indescribable bitterness welling up inside me still. I voiced the question on my mind. "You know who she is?" Alara nodded, then she sat down in front of me and opened her hand. In her palm were 2 rings. One was the one I had pawned at the hotel when I was short on cash. The other was the one that belonged to her, so she hadn't thrown it away. "She asked me to give this to you before she left. She said she had a message for you. She said she did something wrong before. I knew you would never forgive her, but after you left, she realized she couldn't live without you. She said she's sorry and hopes for a chance to make it up to you in the future." Make it up to me? So this was her way of making it up to me. I took the 2 rings from Alara's palm, a complex feeling welling up inside me that I couldn't describe. Lifting my head, I looked toward the emergency room. Just at that moment, the lights suddenly went out. The emergency room door opened and Sophia was wheeled out by several nurses. A light breeze fluttered the white sheet covering her. My legs suddenly went weak. 2 months later, I finished changing the water for the flowers in the hospital room, my face devoid of expression. When I turned around, I saw Sophia staring at me intently. After that emergency, she was just barely hanging on. The doctor had told me to say my last words to her. I had prepared myself, but thankfully, she managed to pull through. "Elias, were you serious about what you said before?" After a moment, Sophia asked me again with a smile. I pretended not to understand and said lightly, "What did I say?" "I don't remember. I said too many things." Sophia pouted. "You might not remember, but I remember it very clearly. You said that as long as I survived, you would agree to any condition I set." Her dark eyes gazed at me, sparkling. "See? I'm fine now. Should you make good on your promise? I know you can't forget me, so let's get back together. I promise I won't ever make you unhappy again. Besides, I've already transferred the company to your name. If I ever make you unhappy, you can make me leave with nothing. That should be enough to show my sincerity." "Right." I glanced up and saw a hint of humility in her expression. It almost made me forget how arrogant she used to be. I didn't say anything. It was true that I couldn't forget her, but the sorrow and pain from before were also real. "Elias, please say yes. Just give me one more chance." Seeing my lack of reaction, Sophia tugged at my sleeve and pleaded in a low, coquettish voice. I felt a sense of helplessness. I didn't want to agree, but the image of her covered in blood from the car crash flashed before my eyes, and I couldn't find it in my heart to refuse. After a moment's thought, I casually plucked a flower and placed it beside her. "Let's leave it to fate. Odd number of petals. We get back together, even number we part ways." Seeing that I had relented, Sophia breathed a sigh of relief. Then she anxiously picked up the flower and, lowering her head, began to count the petals seriously. 1 petal, 2 petals. As her anxious yet hopeful voice counted on, I lifted my gaze to the bustling world outside the window. The sunlight was still glaring, just as it had been thousands upon thousands of times before.